Good evening and welcome to the May 2025 meeting of Triangle Association of Freelancers. Our guest this evening is Jennifer Bortel, the web editor with the Saturday Evening Post. Jennifer, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Don, you were going to say.
Well, one of the questions, whenever we have a guest, and it's usually a writer, but we have a lot of editors as well, such as yourself. And I always like to start these conversations by asking if they were a reader as a kid. And I'm super curious to find out, now that you hold a position in publishing, what kind of a reader you were as a child.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, to set the stage, my mother was a former English teacher who would ruthlessly correct your grammar in front of your friends if necessary. So that was my childhood. But we also had many, many books in our house. And we would do weekly trips to the library where my mom would come home with, giant stacks of books that she would plow through every week, and then we'd be back to the library the next week. And then she really didn't set any limitations for what I read or when. So I was pulling stuff off the shelves that, as a young teenager that I probably shouldn't have been reading. It was really fun to read. Harold Robbins comes to mind. But I had all of that at my disposal, and I did read quite a lot. If you would ask me now what it was that I read, I really couldn't tell you. But a lot of everything, for sure. Now, the funny thing is my younger sister is not a reader at all, and never was. So, nature nurture thing, I guess. But yeah, so yes, I did come from a background of reading as a child. I have lived in a lot of different states. My dad was a military officer, so we moved around quite a bit and ended up in Pennsylvania. I went to Penn State and I have a bachelor's degree in English with a minor in anthropology. And I've been in publishing my entire adult career. So I started at a textbook publishing company called Saunders College Publishing, which was based in Philadelphia. And there I was an editorial assistant, a development editor, an acquisitions editor for geology, geography, and astronomy textbooks at the higher education level, which was fascinating. If I can make generalizations, the geographers are really nice people. The astronomy professors, not so much. I don't know what that is. It could just be the ones that I was working with. And then after that, I moved to Pearson Education, and I ran the website for the professional and trade group. So they did a lot of computer software type books. And then we had a consumer facing website that published a lot of articles for basically end users of those books, whether it was Adobe software products or computer programming languages. And we would have the authors write articles that we post on that website. And then from there, somehow miraculously ended up at the Saturday Evening Post running the content for their website. I've been there since 2016. But the funny part of the story is that my very first job in Philadelphia, I worked right off of Independence Square in a building called the Curtis Building. And the Curtis Building was named after Cyrus Curtis, who was the editor-in-chief of the Saturday Evening Post in its heyday, because the Curtis Building is where the Saturday Evening Post was published when it was located in Philadelphia back in the 40s through the 60s. So I've come full circle.
That is an amazing career journey. It really is.
Yeah, I've enjoyed all aspects of it, but my goodness, this is absolutely the most fun working at the Saturday Evening Post, because we're a generalist. I'll just give you the background for the Saturday Evening Post, where in case anyone isn't familiar with it, it's a generalist magazine. It's been publishing since 1821. Some of our original issues covered the death of Napoleon, the death of Thomas Jefferson. I mean, we've been around a long, long, long time. The story, which is apocryphal, is that it was founded by Benjamin Franklin, which is kind of true, but not really. But he's in our background as well. And then the Saturday Evening Post at its peak had a subscriber base of 6 million people. That was in the 1950s. Like many magazines, it fell on hard times in the late 1960s. It stopped publishing for 2 years, and then it was bought by Bert Servas, who's an industrialist in Indianapolis, and they moved the operation to Indianapolis in 1970, and it's been publishing there ever since. And it's definitely gone through a couple of like quirky iterations, I'll put it that way, especially in like the 1980s. But I'd say for the last 20 years, we've been trying to stay true to our original vision of being a generalist magazine that covers everything from people to the environment, humor, fiction, essays. There really is just a little bit of everything in that magazine. And I'd say our only overall focus or parameter is that most of our stories are US focused or US based. So we're not doing a lot of stories that focus on Europe or anything like that. And then we publish 6 times a year. So in a way that prevents us from doing anything that's hard news, because we just aren't on a hard news schedule. And so we're doing a lot more with features and just human interest type stories, I'd say, was our focus. And then I'm the online editor, so I'm in charge of all the content for the website. And that is kind of a superset of what is published in the print magazine. So we will post the articles that appear in the print magazine will also appear online at a later date. And then in addition to that, we do publish quite a bit of additional content because we don't really have those space or time limitations. So we can do a lot more and try some new ideas and be more flexible. And then we do have a really collaborative, I guess, working environment with regard to the online and the print magazine, where, I'll come across ideas that I think would be good, or somebody will pitch me an idea that I think would be a good fit for print, and I'll forward it to the print magazine editors. And likewise, if they have something that they really wanted to publish, but the timing's not right, or they don't have room, they'll send it to me. And so it's kind of an avenue that goes both ways, where they've picked up stuff that I've published online, or I've forwarded to them online. What's that, Don?
I was going to say, tell us a little bit about your specific editorial needs on the online side.
Sure.
What kind of articles are you looking for? What do you need most of? And what kind of articles do you not need? What is the kind of content you are not looking for?
I'd say the only thing that's really off limits is we're not doing political content, hard news, that type of thing. What I am looking for is, I'd say the sweet spot for a Saturday Evening Post story is that it's US focused. It's interesting. It's telling a unique story that I haven't heard before. And maybe it has a little bit of history, of American history woven through it. And, you know, it's something that is well formed and not too large. Sometimes people will say, I want to write about the American healthcare system. I can't write an 800-word article on the American healthcare system. Like, but you could write about something that one particular doctor is doing, or you know, something like that. Like, small stories are almost always better, and I think that also helps the writer focus on something that you can get your arms around in 800 to 1,000 words, which is about the length of you know, our typical story. But I mean, I've done stuff, I've, you know, published stuff that's all over the map. One of the ones that I recently posted is, it's a guy who's a boxing writer, and he pitched me a story about Jack London, and basically got into this bar fight out in San Francisco, and ended up appearing before a judge, and the judge ruled against him, and he was so mad that he ended up getting his revenge by writing a short story about the judge, and then that was published in the Saturday Evening Post. So, but you know,
That checks all the boxes.
it does. It's just such a great story, you know, just a really interesting slice of something that happened in Jack London's life that led to him writing this story that appeared in the Post. So that was really neat. We do I do some travel stuff, you know, if somebody has an interesting idea about a travel story. I will tell you one, like a really good headline or a really good pitch can make a really big difference. This wasn't mine, but it was something that another editor told me about, is that he got a pitch for a story where the headline was, "Every time I go to Hawaii, I get divorced."
See?
You want to read that, you know?
Yeah.
And then another editor said a great thing about writing a really good story, which is, he said, an article is always about a thing, but also another thing. In other words, you know, there should, if you're just writing about a national park, well, that's been done before, but what particular light can you shed on it that no one has before?
Mhm.
Or what kind of personal story can you bring to it? Not everything has to be about, like, all about my summer vacation, but you know, what is your unique voice that you can bring to a story? Because that's what I'm looking for. We do some listicles, but they're not my favorite, because I feel like our in-house writers can do those pretty easily, and I'd rather have something that represents, you know, your unique voice or your unique experiences, something that you're familiar with, that you are passionate about writing about.
Okay.
Do you use any fiction in the online, what you edit? Do you use fiction in addition to the print magazine?
Yes. I don't have anything to do with it, thankfully. I don't. Sorry, I get editing fiction, to me, seems overwhelming. Like, give me real facts. But our managing editor for the magazine, Andy Hollandbeck, I don't know if you know, if you worked
Actually,
with
Andy was a meeting guest last year.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Of course, yes. He was
Yeah,
telling me
Andy's
about it.
cool.
Yeah, he's great. His hair is pink this month. It's a different color every 6 to 8 weeks. But he's our fiction editor. So we publish a weekly fiction story online every Friday fiction. And he's the one who receives those entries and vets them. So anything in the fiction universe would go to Andy Hollandbeck.
Let's talk
And go ahead.
a little bit about fees and rights. Um, because that's what writers want to know. How much do you pay for the online content, and what rights do you purchase with that?
Sure. Our online fee, our online budget's quite small, unfortunately. I am paying $100 for an article in the 800 to 1,000 word range. I always encourage people to, if they're interested in writing for the post and you send me something, and if I think it's right for print, I always try to push it to print because they pay better. But sometimes they just don't have the room, or it's not a good fit for print. And then, and like I said, I can publish a lot more than they can. So, um, that's typically the fee for that, 800 word article, say. Our typical, publishing agreements are work for hire, where we own all the rights. If that is an issue, I can work with writers individually on that.
Wonderful.
And I can be pretty flexible with regard to that. As long as you're not taking out the indemnity clause, I'm good. So that's the only one that's an issue. But I've done licensing agreements and whatnot. So
How do
there's
you
some
like to be pitched,
there.
Jennifer? What's the best way
I'm
to reach
sorry.
out to you? How do you like to be pitched? If any of our
Um,
members listening this evening have an idea they feel would be appropriate, what's the best way for them to query you?
to email me, j.bortel@saifpost.org, is probably good. It's always, I don't mind getting more than one idea. I don't like getting like 10 ideas
Yeah.
because it would be nice if, you um, could narrow down what you think would be the best fit for the post to one or maybe two ideas. And then I really do appreciate um, working with uh, working with authors who are good at proofreading and fact checking the work before they send it to me. And then if the type of piece you're uh, working on has a lot of information, that all the information is well documented with either source list or embedded links. So I can fact check the material more easily. And this goes without saying, but it's great if it's thoughtfully organized.
So basically, you're encouraging your writers to just write a well-written, well-edited something that you don't have to spend a lot of time on. That I think that's an easy request. I really do.
I work with people who, writing is not necessarily their strong suit, but they have other attributes that they bring to the table. Namely their subject matter expertise. So, and I find a way to work with all sorts of people. If they have interesting ideas, I mean, that's really the fundamental, right? Is do you have an interesting idea and something to say about it? And why are you the right person to write it?
How do you establish a relationship with a contributor? I mean, you and I have worked on a number of pieces, some features, a couple of listicles. I think I reached out to you initially, I believe, in the very beginning.
Mm.
And I've enjoyed writing for you. So, but in other words, do you work with a lot of the same writers over and over again? Do once somebody has sold you something, are you more receptive to ideas that they might have for you down the road?
Yeah, I mean, part of it depends on how easy they are to work with. But if someone's a good writer and they have some particular area of that they like to cover, or that they're subject matter experts in, then I do have a number of writers who I've formed a regular relationship with, and they write a regular feature for me. And those are in all sorts of different areas. I have a guy who does media history. I have a professor who does fashion history, someone else who does stories of working women, again, with a historical angle. I have someone who covers cons and scams and, online issues, things to be worried about. Plenty to cover there. So I do work with a lot of regular columnists who
Are there
I
any
think have things that will be interesting to the Saturday Evening Post readers.
Sure. And who is your readership, Jan? Who reads the Saturday Evening Post?
Well, that is a really interesting story because our print magazine, I would say, definitely skews older. You're probably looking at baby boomers and up are the subscriber base for the print magazine. But if you look at our online demographics, it is very evenly distributed among all age groups. Like the 18 to 30 age group is as well represented as the 65 to 80 age group across the board.
Interesting.
It's really weird.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
But I'll take it. I like having that, the fact that and it's pretty even, also evenly distributed between men and women.
Wow. That's fascinating. Are you involved with Jack and Jill or Humpty Dumpty in any way?
No, other than if somebody sends me an idea like you did, Dawn, I think, you know what? I think this would be a really good fit for the kids' magazines. I'll forward it. But the person who runs those is Troy Brownfield. Yeah. So he is the publisher for those two kids' magazines. And I forget what the age ranges are. Humpty Dumpty's like 3 to 5, and Jack and Jill is like
6 to 12, 10. I think, something like that.
Yeah. I really
appreciate that referral, by the way. And Troy's been absolutely wonderful to work with, but I understand he's been dealing with some health issues recently.
Yeah, but he's doing great, and he would actually be a really cool person to have on this, because not only is he an executive editor for the Saturday Evening Post and the editor for the kids magazines, he also just published, let me get it right or he'll kill me. Oh, Marvel Comics for Dummies.
Really?
Yeah, he is a huge comic book guy.
Oh, I got to talk to him about that.
And then he's doing, his next one is, I think he's doing Avengers for Dummies. And then he also, he just,
that's hilarious.
Knows everything about everything with regard to that whole.
Well, we definitely need to bring Troy in, as you suggested, because we have a lot of children's writers in TAF.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we really do. So I'll reach out to him and, see if we could arrange something for later in the year. That would be terrific.
Yeah, and there are a couple
anything else I need to ask you.
Well, there are a couple, and just to get back to the kids magazines, I know there are a couple of areas that they're soon to be retiring, or they're going to be looking for new material. And I don't know that much about it. Troy would have to tell you, but I think there's some room there for some new stuff.
Oh, excellent.
In the kids magazines for sure.
Okay, I'll reach out to Troy and see what we can arrange. I appreciate that. Is there anything else we need to talk about, Jen, specific to the online content for the Saturday Evening Post, or your position or your responsibilities, or anything that contributing writers should need to know as far as, what to do right, what to avoid? You know what I mean? Any just concluding advice you could offer for people who might be interested in writing for you?
It's always really helpful if you can send some writing samples, or just really not like a gazillion attachments, but maybe some links to some of your writing that appears online. I mean, if you don't have anything like that, then you could attach an example. It just really helps me get a sense of your style and your interest to be able to see what you've already written.
Wonderful. Does anyone? Oh, I know one person asked if you could please repeat your email address. She didn't think that she
Oh,
got it
sure.
completely.
It's J dot Bortel, and that's B as in boy, ORTEL at satevepost.org.
The Post organization's a nonprofit, isn't it?
It is a nonprofit. So yeah, in addition to it's weird. In addition to the magazines, we have a farm.
Oh, that's great.
It's like smack in the middle of Indianapolis, and they're like,
I'm sorry,
pigs.
Don, I can't edit your article. I gotta go bale hay.
Like they sell eggs out of the front office for the employees. So it's a weird little organization. And then
My
they do
goodness,
it.
I love that.
And then they run a children's fitness camp every summer as part of their nonprofit mission.
Wow.
So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I could go on and on about
That is some eclectic
stories, but,
irons in that fire.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they're really
Does anyone have any questions for Jennifer while we have her? Leslie?
Sure. So I understand wanting to see writing samples. I mean, that seems very reasonable and standard. I am a corporate writer, spent 20 years in corporate comms, and have written about technology for most of my professional life. I'm writing an article about data centers and AI right now. So that gives you any idea. But I'm really looking to, I would like to start writing about things that are more meaningful to me, more accessible, more interesting, quite frankly. So for someone like me, who I have tons of clips, but they're about AI, transformers, things like that.
Mhm.
Does it at least, if I included a few links, does it at least you can see, oh, this is a professional writer. She has a long career of writing videos and other articles. Could I somehow still be considered for human interest stories like this?
You know what I would do instead that I think would probably work better would be instead of sending me like a 2-sentence pitch, maybe your pitch is the first 2 paragraphs of the article that you're thinking about writing to give me, a better sense of not only the article, but also your writing style. And, if you wanted to include an article on AI and data centers, you could, but I don't think that probably isn't going to give an editor a good sense of the kind of writing that you would do for them. So I would probably just write a longer pitch that would give me a sense of how the article would turn out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for speaking to us tonight. This has been great. I really appreciate it.
Oh, sure.
Allison?
Hold on. Hi there.
Hi.
Sorry, I have like the perfect silhouette here for like puppets. So, I just have a quick question. So you do take essays and or reported essays, right?
Yes. You mean like a personal essay?
A personal essay, yeah, or reported essay.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes, an unreported essay. Yes. I do. It kind of depends on what you're going to cover and how you're going to cover it. Because I found a lot of personal essays can get too like navel gazy. Like, why are you telling this story? Like you need to have a good reason to tell the story that will, speak to a larger audience.
Yeah.
But obviously, no, yes. The short answer is yes, we do. We do take personal essays.
So and you said you do that you do take travel stories as well?
Yes.
So you can
absolutely. Although the travel one's kind of tricky because I don't want to do too many destination stories because a lot of like somebody just pitched me a story on like the US Virgin Islands, but how many of our readers are going to get to go to the US Virgin Islands? So that may not necessarily
So what I'm
be
looking,
like the best story for our readers.
yeah, I've been writing essays for a long, long time. So and I have a column. So I was looking at what there was one historical one that I was going to pitch about the Ameripass, which used to be what every European that came to America used to get on the Greyhound buses and use the Ameripass because you could get 30 days for something ridiculous like $120 or something like that, and you could go anywhere in the country. And you'd save on hotels by sleeping on the bus by taking a really long overnight trip and stuff like that. And you know that's how I was introduced to America, really, on a Greyhound
Yeah.
bus. I also did it with I did it after working at a children's camp one summer, and then I did it with my mother and my aunt. My aunt was 65 at the time, and we all had backpacks and stuff like that. We did the Greyhound buses. We didn't rent.
Anything that you can do that I think you start with your personal essay, but then you throw in that historical angle, like
Yeah,
here's the history of Maripath or whatever, like kind of
because
broaden
they
it
don't do it
to
anymore.
something that a
Yeah,
lot of people are going to be able to relate to, or the history, any like quirky historical aspect of America, I think is, for me, kind of the heart of the Saturday
yeah,
Evening Post, and it's something that I think can add a lot of value to not every story, but to a lot of
yeah.
different stories.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
have a question.
Wait, hold up, Joel.
Okay.
You guys all set?
Oh,
Yeah.
I just had one more question actually. And then do you do like current things? Because I'm just gonna take my tween on a road trip with no planning, right across America. We're going from South Carolina to Washington State, so, and everywhere in between. So I might sort of, yeah. I'll pitch that somewhere. But anyway, so I was just wondering how long, when you do receive pitches, how long do you, how long do we wait to hear back? Because
Uh,
that's
depends.
yeah. It's
Is
not
it
if it's
Monday?
months,
Is it
because
Friday?
it's if it's just
Am I in a good
$100.
mood? Am I-
What's that?
Do I have like a giant pile of work that I need to get through first? Do I really love the
Generally
idea? No,
speaking, for $100 piece. That's what I'm asking.
yeah, about I would say a week. If you
Okay.
don't hear from me, feel free to follow up.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
I'll go, oh, damn it, I'm such an idiot. I didn't write that person back, and then I'll write you back.
Okay, because it's been months with some people. I'm sure a lot.
Yeah, I know people.
Yeah.
Jesus, Alice.
Editors' inboxes can be ridiculous. I totally get it.
Yeah.
All right, Joel, you had a question?
Yes.
Jesus,
I
what?
write a lot of American history shorts, 800 words, but I include a lot of public domain illustrations. A lot of my material comes from the Library of Congress, and I work on things between 1848 and 1868. So all of the graphics are in public domain. In pitching a story, would you like to see some, or does the Post handle that separately? I'm just curious.
Any help that you can give me with photos and illustrations
Mhm.
that are copyright free, I love you for it, because one of the favorite parts of my job is finding photos and illustrations for an article. But if the writer helps me out, and you don't have to actually like email me all the photos, but you can just send links or whatever, like stuff that you want to use in the article, I find that tremendously helpful. Library of Congress is such a great resource for that. There's another website called Pickrell, Picryl, that collects public domain images from Library of Congress and elsewhere. That is also a good resource. And then just FYI, if you do work with me, we have a Shutterstock account for stock photos that I will use to illustrate certain kinds of stories. But yes, if you have ideas for photos and they're in the public domain, which I believe we're up to 1929 now, for anything published before 1929 is in the public domain. That's extremely helpful for me, but not required.
Yeah, most of it actually wouldn't be photos because of the time period I work in. It's generally line woodcuts or something like that that have been
Oh,
used.
sure. Like, yeah, I mean, photo, daguerreotypes, illustrations, prints, whatever you have at your disposal is helpful.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions for Jennifer? No one? Okay, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. This was wonderful. I really
Thank you.
appreciate all the information and insight
Thank
that
you
you've
for
shared
having
with
me. I really enjoyed talking with you. And if you have questions for me, you want to email me after, that would be great. I'll be less available in the next week. My son is graduating from high school. There are many parties involved for some reason. I don't remember having all these parties when I graduated from high school, but now this is a thing we do, I guess. So yeah, and my sister and my stepfather are flying in from elsewhere, and so it's all a big to-do. But I try to be as responsive as I can.
We really appreciate that.